This is the new $1,699 iMac 24 review Apple represented in all its glory. The front design of the iMac is designed so that we know what an iMac is. It is practically the silhouette that represents the icon. It has even lost the front logo of the Apple, in a new exercise of minimalism on the part of the company. And this computer is perfectly recognizable without it. Have you ever seen an iMac on film, with a sticky note covering the mark to avoid advertising? That design is unmistakable. And precisely for this reason, Apple seems to have given it relevance. The visual language of the iMac defines itself. Its silhouette is already an icon in the world of technology. Starting from the idea of the iPad Pro in terms of shapes, with the characteristic touch of the chin of the iMac, this time turned into a color zone without more. Many expected an iMac M1 more similar to an iPad Pro with a stand, but the active ventilation system that this computer must incorporate is located precisely in this area, along with the rest of the components that really are in this area. It has also been used to accommodate the new sound system, gaining more space than if it were overlapped with the screen and with the proximity of the lower sound outlet, which bounces off the table so that we can hear it from the front. This lower part of the screen is the color that we have chosen on the Mac, with more pastel tones. The analysis model from which I am writing is blue, being a very light tonality in this area. The frame that surrounds the screen is, in all models, white, going against practically all screen frames on the market. Black has always been a very chosen color for this area. Apple itself uses them in its current MacBook and MacBook Pro, due to its light absorption peculiarity of the black color that hides them when we are focused on the content. On a daily basis, white frames don't really matter that much here. Apple also had iPhones with white frames before the iPhone X generation. In this iMac, the quality and brightness of the screen, as well as their low thickness, does not make them stand out above the content, nor do they cause a contrast that prevents us from appreciating all the nuances of the image, even in very bright environments. They do serve to praise the current design and again, give importance to the shape that the iMac design traces, which is neither more nor less than to outline the essence of this model, while maintaining the immersive viewing experience. The back of our iMac is prettier than the front of the competition. Steve Jobs, on the original iMac G3, the back is where the company has sought to emphasize its brand image, with a larger logo and with the color we have chosen raised in saturation to make it stand out more. It is in stark contrast to the stand, built with the reinforced aluminum of the rest of the company's products, but which is surprisingly discreet. In fact, when I saw the keynote, I thought that the colors of these new iMac were too strident or flashy, and that perhaps my favorite would be the silver color, more classic. However, after testing this model in blue, I must say that the color is quite discreet in that the sum of all its components is very elegant on the table. Last year, the last generation seemed to me more iMac than ever, because even with all these years maintaining the shape, it was still an elegant design. This presence and concept of a premium product projected into the future stands out even more than ever in this generation. The convenience of moving it around the house, office, or shop can also be considered a feature of the product. It is the most thought out desktop for moving that I know. I think the inclusion of a magnetic charging connection cable was even thought to make it easy to plug and unplug even without looking at the back of the iMac. Wherever it is spectacular, but at the same time, it is discreet, especially if we combine it with any of the 7 available colors: blue, green, pink, and silver for all models, and also yellow, orange, and purple if we buy the medium or a higher model. Aesthetically synced with Magic Keyboard, Touch ID, and Magic Mouse. The Magic Keyboard included in this new model is, in terms of keystroke mechanism, identical to the Magic Keyboard on the rest of the iMac. Same pressure, key cushioning, amplitude, or low profile travel. In a first contact, it seemed to me that this new keyboard accompanied the fingers a bit more, but testing it for several days, and doing a blind test of both keyboards to see if they were differentiated by the keystrokes, I realized that they are technically identical, also in size and thickness. Aesthetically, there are slight differences. The edges are more rounded and the keys in each corner accompany the aluminum arch with also rounded keys. The eject button, obsolete in current times, where practically no one used it to extract DVDs, has been replaced by a Touch ID button, which mimics the one we saw in the iPhone before the generation of Face ID, except in the entry model, which comes with the normal Magic Keyboard without Touch ID. The fingerprint configuration works exactly the same as on any Mac, iPhone, or iPad with Touch ID, the same speed when it comes to capturing the finger or sampling it to access the computer or change users, especially useful for the latter. It is the first time that we see a wireless keyboard with Touch ID, so the brand has made sure that the communication between it and the computer is completely secure. Therefore, this keyboard is only compatible when used with Touch ID with Mac with M1 processors. The information is encoded and decoded using the secure element on the keyboard and communicating with the secure enclave of the M1 on the computer. Communication between the 2 points is end-to-end encrypted. Is it possible to use the Magic Keyboard with Touch ID on another Mac M1? Yes. No problems. Even the latest version of Big Sur 11.3.1 is already prepared for it. To test it, I connected this new keyboard with the Mac Mini M1 that I have at home. The Mac detected it is a Magic Keyboard with Touch ID and asked me to quickly press the Mac Mini's power key twice to verify that it was in front of this computer and that it was unlocked. Once done, a new option to store fingerprints appeared in System Preferences. Something very interesting that I have discovered with this keyboard is that it can be used with several Mac M1s and that it depends on where we have it connected, the fingerprints that we have registered on it will be used. This is because the secure element of the keyboard does not store personal information, but is identified in a coded way with the secure enclave of each M1 where it has been linked, where the fingerprint information is stored. In other words, each secure enclave has a record of the secure elements of each keyboard, along with the fingerprints it has registered, and that information never leaves there. Therefore, you can use the iMac keyboard in a normal way, and if you connect it to a Mac Mini M1 or a MacBook Air, MacBook Pro M1, configure different fingerprints. When you return to the iMac, you can identify yourself with your original fingerprints, but not with the ones you have used in the other computers because they are stored in the secure enclave of each of them. It is very comfortable if we want to use this keyboard on a laptop in addition to our iMac, without having to start the configuration process again from the beginning when we return home. Of course, it still lacks one thing, the backlighting. Apple should learn from what they have done with the fantastic Magic Keyboard on the iPad Pro, iPad Air, as that lighting for those of us who use the Mac at night in low light can be very useful. The blue tone of the analysis model on the keyboard is very discreet. In direct light, it is practically the aluminum color of a normal keyboard. Only in some reflections and in certain conditions we will see the color stand out. So be brave if you want to choose a color daring for your new iMac because it is not very striking as you see in the pictures. As for the mouse, we have the Magic Mouse identical to the one you know. No functionality added to the model that Apple already has on the market, and that at least they should have taken advantage of to change the charging mode for something less scandalous, such as wireless charging or some system that allows it to be used while we have it connected to the cable. As for the color, also very discreet in the aluminum with blue tones, perhaps even more imperceptible here since the color area is the side part that we cover with our hand. The top touchpad remains white on all models. All in one together, the screen of this new iMac is 24, and it is contained in a similar size to the one we had in the 21.5 iMac of the previous generation, due to the thinning of the edges that allow having a longer diagonal. It is a Retina 4.5K display at a resolution of 4480 x 2520 pixels with a brightness of 500 nits and P3 color space. Unlike the previous 21.5 model, this new iMac incorporates True Tone technology to mimic the ambient color balance using sensors and bring it to the screen. The LED backlighting is identical to what we know from previous generations, and it is still an outstanding screen that also improves resolution in this generation. It reaches practically 11.3 million pixels in this 4.5K version, and it is a delight to work on it. Day to day, play video games or enjoy a movie on it. All models include two Thunderbolt 3 USB 4 ports capable of up to 40 gigabits per second, allowing you to connect peripherals with this high-speed connection or even a monitor like Apple's 6K Pro Display XDR while maintaining the original native resolution. If we buy the intermediate or higher model, the iMac will come with two additional USB 3 ports, up to 10 gigabits per second, for extra peripherals that do not need the maximum capacity of the Thunderbolt standard. Where the improvement is noticeable, especially considering the need for teleworking and the improvement of domestic equipment to communicate remotely, is the spectacular improvement of speakers, microphones, and FaceTime HD camera of this model. The speakers are now hi-fi and feature force cancellation on the woofers. This new iMac has neither more nor less than 6 of them and allows you to position the sound in 360 to whoever is sitting in front of you. Therefore, it is compatible with the spatial audio of the Dolby Atmos sound that, for example, much of the content of Apple TV Plus already incorporates. It is literally an experience to watch a movie of this type in front of the iMac, without the need for headphones or extra of any kind, and to hear the details of the sound source. It's even noticeable in movies without Dolby Atmos, thanks to the wider stereo sound between its speakers. The microphones are not far behind. This iMac has 3 of them with studio quality, a high signal-to-noise ratio, and very important, directional beamforming technology. This allows the microphones to learn the origin of the voice of the person in front of them, and to know how to cancel the external sound. One of the mux is even strategically placed at the back of the Mac, ready to cancel even the echo from the wall with our voice. This isolation is spectacular in video conferencing, where the sound that is sent from our iMac is solely that of our voice, isolating sounds from the street, children, or pets, without having to do anything to configure it. For all this, nothing more and nothing less than 16 cores of the M1 processor are used, which learns to differentiate what is our sound and what is noise. They can be used perfectly to record audio for podcasts, for example, without using an external microphone. In this sense, you can see the feedback from Apple in the construction of the HomePod technology. This iMac inherits a lot from it in this sense, and it is to be appreciated, or even from the AirPods. They are good lessons learned that come in handy for this desktop computer for this improvement in the sound subsystem. M1 hard. The reason this iMac may exist is Apple's M1 chip. It integrates within it a large part of the complete computer system, such as the memory, the hard disk, and the graphics subsystem. It is exactly the same processor that integrates the rest of the M1 Macs that we have already reviewed. And in performance, it is identical to the MacBook Pro M1 and the Mac Mini M1. This is because the iMac also uses active ventilation through fans to cool the chip, so it can run faster than the MacBook Air, the only Mac with M1 that does not have fans. The M1 in this iMac behaves excellent, as in the rest of the range. All applications open with ease, the startup is fast, and the transition from software to Apple Silicon architecture is becoming more agile than ever. For what we will find that much of the software already works natively on it, including Windows virtualizers like VMware or Parallels, which in my experience work even better than they did on Intel Macs. Something that continues to surprise in graphics is the tremendous performance of the 8 cores dedicated to it. In my tests, I connected it to one of the latest BenQ releases in 27 UHD 4K Thunderbolt 3 monitors, model PD2725U, as an external monitor. The iMac, as you imagined, the redesign of this new iMac model is the most important since the original generation. It has rethought what it can do with a new heart that allows Apple to design with fewer limitations the vision of all-in-one that today follows being a house brand. It also plays with the DNA of being a good creative canvas for all those who go beyond daily tasks. It is the most prepared computer for streaming or teleworking, silent, light, and beautiful than there is right now on the market, with power for just about everything. Its design is simple, with a very mature operating system like Big Sur and an ecosystem that feeds on the possibilities of the iPhone or iPad that we can have at home. The appearance and the new colors give a touch of elegance to the set and allow us to personalize even the model we want to take home or to the office. Be daring, the colors, far from being excessive, look great on any table. The all-in-one Mac is more all-in-one than ever. A model designed to be useful no matter what type of user you are, and with a promising future including the M1 chip, perhaps the most significant advance in the Mac world of devices. Last 20 years, the transition is strengthening the product range, and proof of this is that this first batch of the new generation has once again put the Mac in front of the eyes of consumers. This iMac and its possibilities will ensure that they are not separated from it. Thank you for watching.